First, good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank Pete and his team here at King County for having all of us here. I think a key part of the success we'll have as an industry together is how we work together to advance electric battery technology. And it's this is where I get to flatter you a little bit. King County has obviously taken a huge leadership role in this, and I'm going to tell a story about how we're a little bit on the other end of the spectrum of entering the battery electric world. And I know there's some other agencies here that are at the same stage that we're at, and now we're hoping to play catch up with King County. So in this presentation, I'm gonna talk a little bit about our history with electric propulsion, one of the slow charge pilots we just had, the fast charge pilot we're going to be launching next year, as well as work that is moving forward with our low carbon fleet strategy. We also have folks here from TransLink from our procurement, maintenance, engineering department. So if I don't know an answer to a question, they're a lot smarter than I am. So I'm going to see if they can help me out with that. So just to give a little bit of context about TransLink. So we're a pretty unique multimodal transportation authority here in North America. We were created back in 1999. We're originally an organization through the provincial government, and then it was given to the region to run public transit. We have a pretty dynamic mix of services, very different from a lot of other agencies. We have a rail division, so we have the world's longest automated metro system. We have a commuter rail system, the West Coast Express. We're the only transit agency in Canada that has a police force. We have our bus division, Coast Mountain Bus Company. We also operate and maintain 4 bridges. And we also invest heavily in our road network and our regional cycling network. So we have quite the large mandate of an organization. If you look at us geographically, we have these really great slides where if you actually impose other metropolitan areas. So our region's pretty unique, where we have the coastal mountains to the north. We have the Georgia Strait to the west, and we have the U.S. border on the south. So it makes it we're very land constrained, which makes our real estate market very interesting. But if you actually look at our service area and you impose the area of, like, for say the Chicago Transit Authority, we're about a third larger. So we have a very massive area with 6 operating bases and 1,500 buses and a lot of service put on the road. Just to talk about electric propulsion, electric buses are not new to TransLink. We have a pretty rich history with our trolley fleet. We've been operating trolley buses since 1948. We have 262 trolley buses today. It's about a fifth of our fleet now. So 188 are our typical standard 40-foot buses, and then 74 are articulated version. We run 350 kilometers of wire, which I believe is about just over 200 miles of wire, serving 13 routes, predominantly in the city of Vancouver and Burnaby. We have about 200,000 weekday trips or passenger trips that we have on our 13 trolley routes. So it's some of our busiest routes in the system. This is just a map of our trolley services that we run predominantly in the Vancouver part of our region. And like I said, we have a pretty rich history. So these are buses back in the 1950s at the Pacific National Exhibition. And then this is a couple of our trolleys in service down on Granville Street today. So we just completed a slow charge battery electric trial with a demo bus that was provided to us by BYD Industries. Provided us our first ability to see how slow charge buses can fit within our fleets, as well as provide inputs into our low carbon strategy, which Dom Repta is leading in our sustainability group. We put the bus in our livery, so customers knew that it was TransLink bus. They were able to ride the bus in certain routes in Vancouver and Burnaby, all over the system. So we really wanted to really test out the range of the bus. So roughly going about 250 kilometers a day. We did install some charging infrastructure for the bus for the overnight slow charge at our Vancouver depot. And this, like I said, provided us opportunities to get some real-time inputs into our low-carbon fleet strategy, which is very similar to the zero-emissions strategy that was recently done by King County, which I thought was actually a fascinating read that I read actually before I went to bed one night. This is the, on the picture on the left is the charging infrastructure that was installed for the BYD bus, and then in our Vancouver depot, and then that's just the picture of the bus on the right side there. One thing that we're doing that's a little bit different on our side of the border is that the U.S. is a few years ahead of us in the sense of the Federal Transit Administration's had a pretty successful low carbon fleet grant program. We have not had that in Canada. So that provides us a very unique opportunity in the sense that we're partnering with an organization called QTRIC, which is the Canadian Urban Research and Transit Innovation Consortium, which is the research arm of the Canadian Urban Transit Association, so APTA's sister organization north of the border. And what's happened is they've been able to help us work with our federal partners in actually creating funding programs to help develop low carbon fleet programs. So we're working with our federal partners as well as other agencies and actually creating the programs together to make it work on our side of the border. So QTRIC has been working on a whole series of research projects from zero and low emissions, connected autonomous vehicles, lightweight materials, and data-driven optimized transit networks. For us, the objectives of the trial that we're entering in for fast charge buses is to really test, demonstrate, and evaluate the applicability of fast charge buses in our system. We don't have the answer just yet of what is our future. Is it going to be slow charge? Is it fast charge? I know King County is going into a bit of a hybrid route on that, and that might be also our future in this as well. Leveraging funding opportunities to explore and build institutional knowledge on electric bus technology in Canada. We're working through the first program now. There's also a second federal program called the Green Infrastructure Fund that has provided a second opportunity to look at piloting even further battery electric technology. One of the things that's a bit different and where we don't want to go with battery technology is that the initial products that have been offered for vehicles and charging stations seem to have a proprietary connection to each other, and we don't want to be in a situation where we're stuck with one charging system that can only charge one bus and vice versa. So we're working with a series of manufacturers, New Flyer, Nova Bus, and then charging station manufacturers, Siemens and ABB, to work towards standardization of the technologies so we can have interoperability between different buses and different charging stations. So that way we have a lot more flexibility in what we buy and maintain in the future. As well as we serve 23 jurisdictions in our region. So this is just another opportunity for us to partner on a more of a green, sustainable initiative with them. So the QTRIC trial is the deployment of 4 battery electric buses, 2 from New Flyer and 2 from Nova Bus in revenue service. We'll be installing 2 en route charging stations on our Route 100, which this service carries about 10,000 customer trips a day, traverses the southern parts of the city of Vancouver all the way out to New Westminster. So we'll be putting a charging station at the 2 terminal points. One of them is at a SkyTrain station. The other one's at a loop that we own just right by our Vancouver Transit Depot and right by the airport. It's a 2.5-year trial period for monitoring and evaluation, and we'll be looking into procuring and purchasing the buses sometime next year with service near the end of the year. This is just an example of some trial fleets. We don't have our buses or charging stations just yet, but a couple of other Canadian agencies have started to do pilots as well. A picture on the left is a New Flyer battery electric fast charge bus out in Winnipeg, where they got charging stations, I believe, from Eaton, and did a pilot program with Manitoba Hydro. And then the picture on the right is 2 of Montreal's brand new battery electric fast charge buses that they are piloting, and they just announced last week that they'll be fully electrifying the route, and buying 40 more battery electric buses in the very near future. So for the customers, they won't really notice a lot that's different about the buses that we'll be getting through this trial. It'll look very similar in terms of the customer layout and the look of the bus. What'll be different is what's on the roof and how we charge it, and the location and how we charge the vehicles at the SkyTrain station and the bus loop. These are our partners, so ranging from the City of Vancouver, BC Hydro is our power utility. Up in British Columbia, ABB Siemens are our power station or charging station partners. New Flyer, Nova Bus are bus manufacturers, as well as the federal government. One of the things that we're doing that Dom is leading is low carbon fleet strategies start really answering some of those questions of where are we going in the future when it comes to our fleet mix, and where are we going in terms of a policy of greenhouse gas emissions and targets. And right now we're undertaking a low carbon fleet strategy. In our approved phase 1 investment plan, we've committed to developing a low carbon fleet strategy to reduce greenhouse gas emissions across the region. This strategy will help us guide longer term fleet decisions, particularly between 2020 and 2040. The intent is to really understand everything that is required to make low carbon technologies work within our operating context, fully understanding their limitations and opportunities, and provide vehicle technology recommendations for bus and non-revenue fleets that align with provincial, federal, climate goals, as well as establishing internal policies and guidance on that as well. So right now, this work was commenced a couple of months ago and will be completed, I believe, by the end of the first quarter of next year. So a whole series of tasks looking from researching renewable fuels, doing a route and charging analysis. So seeing our service area is very dynamic in terms of the range of services we provide by route lengths or even topography. So seeing what's available to us in terms of the charging technology in the areas that we serve, conducting further research and validating information from the battery electric buses that are in the market and what is being forecast out into the future. Looking at a holistic look at our trolley infrastructure and cost, I think one of the very important and interesting components of this work will be is our trolley fleet will be up for retirement and renewal in about 8 to 10 years time. So I know King County recently had a lot of work that was done a few years ago in renewing your trolley fleet, and we'll be in that same stage with ours and seeing how battery electric technology and other low carbon technologies will fit into more of a business and fleet decision that we'll have with our trolley fleet later on in the future, as well as looking at our non-revenue fleet, life cycle cost, emissions analysis, and then overall fleet recommendations to move forward on. And that is it. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them right now.